Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk about pretty much the last immigration policy that former President Obama did prior to leaving office, and it deals with the United States and Cuba. It ends the wet foot, dry foot policy, which has been around for something like 40 years. And this basic law was essentially if a Cuban tried to get to the United States but was caught in the waters, on a raft or whatever, didn't actually put a foot onto the United States, then he or she would be returned to Cuba. But if they actually touched one toe of one foot on U.S. soil, then they were not, the U.S. was not allowed to return them, and that basically they would get free passage, stay here a year, and then file for adjustment of status. That policy has ended. Okay, no more. Meaning that if a Cuban comes here to the United States and puts his little toe on the United States soil and immigration catches him, it is likely now that the Cuban will be put in expedited removal and removed to back to Cuba. So you might be asking, why did President Obama, former President Obama, issue this policy? Why did he stop it after so many years? And the reason is that the immigration policies between the U.S. and Cuba are normalizing. They're warming up, so to speak, and it looks like, of course, we have to see what President Trump will do, but it looks like, there's a lot less travel restrictions, that cruises are opening up, that travel and family restrictions will be eased and so forth. And so the wet foot, dry foot policy essentially encouraged the dangerous travel of Cubans through little rafts through very dangerous waters to get to the U.S. And I don't know what the exact figure is, but there's lots of people who have lost their lives in attempting that journey in order to get their foot onto U.S. soil. So by removing that policy, it removes the incentive to take these dangerous trips and to now go through legal means in order to obtain status and get to the United States. Now, there's still the family Cuban reunification program, which still exists. And essentially, what that is if, for example, there's a petition from a family member to another Cuban member in Cuba, and let's say it takes many, many years for the visa number to become current. They being the person in Cuba or the family in Cuba, can file for the family reunification program under the Cuban Act, and they could come to the United States and await the issuance of the visa while in the United States. So it's actually a very good thing that this program has ended. It now gives hope that there'll be normalized relations and that regular immigration policies will be able to proceed forward from there. Okay, so that's pretty much the last immigration policy upon which former President Obama had taken care of. On another note, it does seem that President Trump has in his bag executive orders this week on immigration. We need to see what happens. We need to see what he signs. Do keep in mind that simply because he might sign some executive order doesn't mean automatically that it is legitimate, meaning that depending what he signs, there could very well be lawsuits which go forward. Exactly the same as what happened with President Obama when he tried to issue executive orders implementing DAPA and other matters upon which lawsuits were filed, injunctions were given, and went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and essentially those injunctions held. So, there's only so much power an executive order can give, and we need to wait and see what happens. So if you like the video, click like, subscribe, and more videos in the coming week. Thank you.